Rise and shine, snackers! We're talking about the Grumpuses today! Lady Grumps and Gentle Snacks, my name's Cash, your local menace, and I'm here with a college assignment. I was given the task of creating a review video for my English class about just, any kind of thing that you can review on YouTube. Love it, like a video game, a product, or whatever. So, my first thought in my head immediately was to start talking about Bugsnax. So today in my video, I will be reviewing each individual character in the game, with mainly a focus on their respective arcs and personalities as they tie into the main story of the game. This is all just a personal opinion mumbo-jumbo piece about the characters from the game. Don't flame me in the comments. Some people. I'm making this video on this topic specifically because I believe, at its core, Bugsnax is a very special and unique game as it compares to other narrative story games in the gaming community. Despite its overall kind of simplicity of the game and its mechanics, I personally believe that this story is something that is special and deserves to be talked about. And I just want to rant about the characters because I love each and every one of them. To give some background on the game, development team Young Horses, also creators of the hilariously rage-inducing game Octodad Dali's Cash, which was released in 2014, announced Bugsnax first on the Sony PlayStation 5 livestream event. This livestream announced the initial release games for the PlayStation 5's release, which included Bugsnax among many other name-brand titles such as Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, and several others. This first impression of the game was not one that most gamers took kindly to, as they almost felt insulted that such a seemingly childish game on surface level was being announced alongside such hit classic games that are beloved by the community. What players soon realized on its release of November 12, 2020 was that this game was far more than met surface high. What players soon realized when they sunk their teeth into the story of the game, it was far more than they had originally expected on surface level. What seemed to be a cutesy, almost Pokemon-esque style video game about little food-themed creatures turned out to be something much more dark and nefarious. What started as a cheesy adventure game for children slowly yet patiently grew into a full course meal of painfully true characters and consequences. This review of the main 13 characters from the Bugsnax story game will include spoilers for the main plot points of the game and the ending, so if you haven't played the game yet and you are interested in it yourself, the door is there. Leave right now. Or don't, I can't make you, I'm not a cop. With that all being said, I'm gonna start rambling. You start off the game as a journalist who is going to this brand new island that has been discovered by esteemed explorer Elizabeth Megafig and her expedition crew to discover about the island and learn about the true nature of the little creatures that live there called Bugsnax. When you first get to the island, unfortunately, due to your ship crashing on it, the first character you meet is a guy by the name of Filbo Fiddlepie. When you meet Filbo, he explains that he is the mayor of their little village that they have settled on the island, given this position of power by Elizabeth herself. But as you interact with the rest of the characters in the game, you seem to find that they don't respect his power because they feel as though he is an ineffective leader who is just not good at keeping everything together and doesn't know what he's doing. He's the first character you help throughout the game, and he basically helps you learn the ropes, pretty much just like a tutorial introduction character. He helps you learn how to use the tools that you're given throughout the game and how to catch Bugsnax. He gives you a majority of your quest lines to help bring everyone back to town, because you find out that they all abandoned town after their leader, Elizabeth Megafig, went missing, and Filbo was not able to keep the town together due to all the fighting and quarrels and arguments, and just general chaos that befell their expedition team. Personally, Filbo is actually probably my favorite character in the game, not only just because of how long he's in the game with you and constantly by your side helping you throughout the story. I just love this little guy. He has boundless optimism throughout everyone's infighting and constant insults towards him and his ability to lead them. Nothing stops him. He keeps going because he wants to make Elizabeth proud and he wants to keep the town together from falling apart again and wants to help bring everyone back. He's always there to greet you when you return from your expedition and catching Bugsnax for everyone else in town. He's always looking out for you. He always wants to make sure that you're okay, that you're taking care of yourself, because you're doing so much for this town, and he has hope that you will actually be able to fix the town yourself, because no one trusts him to be able to lead them well enough to take care of the town himself. He believes that you are the key to fixing things, and he wants to help you because no one else is willing to believe in him. That, and he is just super adorable. He's super cute. I don't like how everyone is so mean to him. He's trying his best. Leave him alone. And yeah, eventually towards the end of the game, the characters do start to respect him a little bit more because he is able to learn how to step up to his leadership position and be able to, rise above everyone's infighting and quarrels amongst each other and be able to keep them all together with the hope that Elizabeth will come back soon and that they'll be able to survive the slew of events that are being thrown at them throughout the story of the game. Overall, Philbo's my favorite character. I'm in love with this guy. He is perfect, and please be nice to him. Just please be nice to him.
Come shake your body, baby, do that conga. No, you can't control yourself any longer.
The next character that you bring back to town and meet on your adventure is the local farmer, a man by the name of Wambus Troubleham. You see his personality very strongly from the get-go. He is stubborn, he is set in his ways, and he is not willing to change for anyone or anything. He is very adamant on not leaving his farm that he has set up outside of town and not wanting to go back to his farm that he initially set up in town because of everyone else around the town, specifically another character by the name of Gramble, who we'll be talking about later, and their constant quarreling. We see throughout the rest of the game that Wambus struggles with, success. He has always struggled with being a farmer and, keeping his crops alive and being able to, produce a bountiful harvest. He is not willing to give up his farm of sauce plants, another alternative food source to the snacks on the island, because, in his words, someone needs to keep everyone else fed. You learn in the game that the other expedition members didn't quite know how to catch Bugsnax themselves, so they mostly relied on Elizabeth to catch snacks for them when she went on her expeditions and then came back to town with her rewards. So after Elizabeth's disappearance, Wambus took it upon himself to start farming alternative food sources to keep everyone else fed, example being sauce plants such as, chocolate, cheese, ketchup, the sort of tools that are used to lure in the Bugsnax you catch in the game, also provide as a food source for the characters. I also think Wambus is a really great character, mostly because it shows stubbornness both as a strength and a weakness, which is not something you see often in characters. We also learn that this poor guy has marriage issues with his wife, Triffany, another character in the game. He is stubborn again in the sense that he does not want to give up his farming and his efforts to actually produce something of value. His wife is an archaeologist who is often exploring dig sites around the island, and she wanted Wambus to come with her to these dig sites to, help her explore, but he was too stubborn to go with her and did not want to leave his farm. This issue is later resolved, though, in the game when they actually, talk about their issues, something that Wambus is not really that good at, but it does show growth on his part, that he is willing to communicate his issues and his voice to help solve these issues. Once again, I think Wambus is a really great character. He's probably maybe like my second favorite next to Philbo. Those two actually tie pretty closely depending on the day. And in all honesty, although his character doesn't serve much purpose outside of his initial quest line and, very beginning of the game, I still think he's a very fun character. He has good banter with the other characters, although most of the time it is negative banter.
I got news for you, Gramble. Bugsnax will never love you. You don't know a thing about love! That's why your wife left you!
After you meet Wambus, the next character that you come across on your adventure is a woman by the name of Bethica Winklesnoot. And right off the bat, she's a mean girl. You can tell her main personality right away just by how she talks to Philbo, who is leading you back to town. She immediately starts insulting him, his personality, his looks, and his leadership skills. And from the get-go, most people don't like her, for obvious reasons. She is very mean, she's rude, she's very sarcastic. She acts like she's all that, and it leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth when you first meet her. Bethica is basically the town gossip. She is what she calls herself, an information specialist. Basically, someone who digs up dirt on other people for the highest payer. That was her job before she, came on the expedition. She was sent out to dig up secrets on business, political enemies, And you find out that she came on the expedition to escape the consequences of her job and the repercussions that came with digging up people's secrets. Throughout the game, she recruits you to help her, dig up more secrets on the rest of the characters in town, especially her nemesis, the local shifty salesman, Cromdo. Mostly throughout the game, your opinion of her, or most people's opinion of her, is a bit more of a negative one. People don't really like her or want to help her out because they feel as though, oh, she's too mean to the other characters. She's digging around in business that she's not supposed to. But as you get closer to the end of her storyline, you find out that this is more so of a trauma response for her. She spent so much of her life looking into, as she calls them, the good ones, and learning their secrets to use against them before they could use it against her and hurt her. She's lost many friendships, she's ruined her career off of it, so she takes it upon herself to basically find out everything she can on a person so that she knows what to expect from them and their behavior before they can use that against her and hurt her. Personally, for me, this narrative and her story was one that I found very compelling and interesting. Yes, I can agree with most other people who have played the game that I didn't quite like her at first. Immediately comes off as rude and antagonistic, almost in a sense. But as her story went along, I found myself almost relating to her in a way. I too have lost many friendships like her because I learned unsavory and unfortunate things about the other person. And towards the end of the game, she does learn to lighten up a little bit more and, not try and immediately ruin her relationships with people, almost in an act of self-destruction. I think Beffica is actually a really good character, not a type of character that you see very often in video games. One that, starts off with a bit of a negative impression, but as you learn more about her and interact with her more, you start to almost feel sympathy for her.
There's drama, and then there's drama. We have too many Geminis around here, and I'm done getting caught up in social dumpster fires.
The next member of the castles that you meet is the local rancher and Wambus's not-so-friendly neighbor, Gramble Gigglefunny. What I mean by not-so-friendly neighbors is that Wambus and Gramble both have very differing opinions on the nature of what to do with the Bugsnax on the island. Wambus believes, like the majority of other characters, that the Bugsnax should be eaten as a food source. They are made of food after all. But Gramble, on the other hand, being a pacifist, a filthy vegan, believes that the Bugsnax are more like pets and should be cared for. Gramble, by principle, does not eat the snacks on the island. He and only one other character share that ideology amongst the cast. So that causes a lot of trouble and arguments between him and the majority of the other characters, specifically Wambus, as they are neighbors and both kind of the southern rancher-farmer type of guy who have very differing viewpoints on what to do with their livestock. Other than that, Gramble is typically a very shy and anxious little guy. He's an insomniac. He has a lot of trouble sleeping and staying in bed because of his constant concern that his little ones, the snacks he keeps in his barn, are going to be eaten by everyone else, as they almost have many times before. Personally, I think Gramble is an okay character. I do enjoy his more sweeter moments that show he has a lot of compassion in his heart for little creatures, as you learn that he did not have the best family growing up. He was abandoned by his parents, so he's always looking to reform that family connection and find a group of people that actually cherish him as a family member, which is why he projects that onto the snacks. But I also do think he is a little too strong in his opinions at times. Yes, he himself can choose to not eat the snacks and abstain from consumption, but I'm not really the biggest fan of how aggressively he tries to push that ideology onto the other characters, when that was one of the main reasons they came to the island in the first place, to eat the snacks. That's just really my only gripe that I have with Gramble as a character. Other than that, he's just a little goober. He's just a little guy who likes his snacks. He knits a lot of sweaters and hats for them. He knitted his own Strabby hat. And I do also think that some of his arguments with other characters, specifically Wambus, are quite funny and make for some very hilarious moments in the game.
I tell you, there's some spooky stuff out there.
There ain't nothing out there, just Bugsnax and trees. You're just yellow.
I'm not yellow, I'm pink.
At the same time you meet Gramble, you also meet another character who happens to be each other's love interest, a woman by the name of Wiggle Wigglebottom. Now, Wiggle is a pop star back on the mainland who has seemed to lost a bit of her spark. She had a hit song that came out that blew her up into stardom, but you later find out that she was a one-hit wonder, and she does not want that to be her legacy. She actually wants a career out of her music. She wants something more than to be known for what she calls a vapid waste of a song, Do the Wiggle. She came to the island to seek out the Bugsnax as sort of a muse to help her bring back the creative flow that she has been missing for so long, which I think is a pretty good analogy of what happens to a lot of other one-hit wonder music artists or, struggling artists who seek out other methods to try and bring back their career or bring back their inspiration. Throughout the game, we also see that Wiggle seems to take a liking to Gramble and vice versa, although you seem to wonder if her admiration for Gramble is genuinely about him and his kind heart, or about his snacks. But then again, that also plays into the sort of theme of almost addiction that is present throughout the game, and how the characters so often rely on the snacks to be able to fix their issues. Even in the main theme song of the game, It's Bugsnax by Caro Caro Bonito, there is a line of the lyrics that says, "A tasty quest to fill the hole that many feel inside their souls," in reference to the characters, the Grumpuses, throughout the game, who are using these Bugsnax as sort of an escape from their lives and all their issues, because the snacks, make them feel good, they make them feel complete, which you later learn in the game has a bit more of an insidious meaning behind it. Unfortunately, Wiggle is also kind of another character that most fans don't seem to like. They think she's too loud, she's too boisterous, that she's just almost too much of a character. But I find that really endearing about her. I think she also has some very funny lines. She very often bursts into song when she speaks, which I think is a fun little detail about her that makes her special. She's a strong, powerful woman, and more people need to respect that.
You're scaring the little ones?
Oh, sorry, Gramble. Inspiration is so hard to find. I just have to sing wherever it strikes me.
After you meet the previous pair of Wiggle and Gramble, you explore a new area and come across a previously mentioned character, Triffany Lottablug, Wambus's wife. As the resident archaeologist of the expedition, she is often leaving town to go and explore the dig sites around the island to learn about the ancient history of their ancestor Grumpus that came before them. There are plenty of different tribes of ancient Grumpuses that Triffany manages to find remnants of across the island, and when you try to convince her to come back to town, she is very hesitant to leave these dig sites, as she is trying to learn more about the history of the island, about the people that came before them, and also because she's worried about coming back to town to deal with Wambus. It takes a little bit of convincing to bring her back, helping her out with her dig expeditions and finding remnants of ancient history, and also letting her know that her husband dressed up a cactus to look like her because he misses her that much. Triffany is another one of my very favorite characters, just because she has a very fun personality and character story throughout the game. She interacts with a lot of different characters as she almost takes on a leadership role in certain positions. She's very knowledgeable, she's respectable. People go to her when they need help with, different things history-wise. She's a very smart woman. She knows what she's doing. When you manage to bring her back to town, you get a cute little cutscene between her and Wambus of them meeting back up, reconciling a little bit, and mostly just Wambus crying about how much he missed her and that he will be willing to do better to, keep their relationship alive and help rekindle their bond. For as much trouble we see Triffany and Wambus struggle with their marriage throughout the game, I do think they are a very cute couple. They're both very strong-willed, independent, and at times stubborn characters, which does mean that they clash heads and ideologies a lot with what they want to do, where they want to take their careers, but at the end of the day, they are willing to help each other and grow as individual people to help, strengthen their marriage again. Also, this is just a little personal detail that I love about her. Her voice actress has a Minnesotan accent, so when she speaks in the game, it makes my heart melt. She is just such a sweet and funny little character, and I adore her whenever she's on screen. A lot of other people seem to really enjoy Triffany's character as a whole, because out of the whole cast of characters, she, alongside Filbo, are probably some of the nicest people you meet in the game. She's not really one to start fights. More so, she tends to avoid fighting at all costs because it causes her too much stress. But also, she's just very helpful. She's very polite. She always has nice things to say about people, except for Cromdo. And she even manages to get along with another very rude and just generally unpleasant character, as most people would deem them in the game. I'll be talking about a little bit later, because they share similar, more scientific interests. So overall, Triffany, she's just a treasure of a character, and she probably is one of the fan favorites.
Anywho, I've nearly talked your ear off. Better get back to work, eh?
The next character on the docket is another one that most of the fan base does not have that nice of an opinion on, mostly because of his behavior and his general attitude towards the rest of the cast. The infamous, bitterly pragmatic salesman, Cromdo Face. When you first meet Cromdo, it is very apparent that he is the type of businessman who will try and scam as much money out of you as he possibly can. He tries to make faulty, useless products as grand and elaborate as he possibly can with his salesman charm and suave, but it's very easy to see through his scam and realize that he's full of crap, respectfully. Throughout the game, you see most characters do not really take kindly to him. Beffica especially. Those two have a bitter rivalry going on. It's apparent that it has been going on pretty much since the expedition started. Cromdo is the perfect target for Beffica to spy on and learn his dirty secrets, which he's got a lot of, and just the general fact that he is kind of, and I mean this in the most respectful, nice way possible, he's a very crummy guy. When Lizbert first went missing and everyone was in general panic, he immediately started trying to salvage off her items to sell to the other characters, and Beffica was not having any of it and immediately exposed him for his petty crimes, which caused him to flee town. And when he comes back to town, their rivalry is far from over. They are still at each other's throats with insults and beration, and those two just generally do not like each other. They have very clashing personalities and ideas. But throughout the game, we realize that at his core, Cromdo is not really that bad of a guy, genuinely, just more so that he has been shaped and hardened by the environment that he grew up in. We learned that he pretty much lived most of his life in poverty. As he explains himself to the main character, he wasn't born rich, so he doesn't deserve to be happy. He spent his whole life trying to achieve this grand dream of his to own his own business, run a karaoke bar, being able to sing the night away. But he has never been able to reach that dream because of the society that he's lived in. He can't afford those nice things, so he has learned to work hard, and by his definition of work hard, may be to work more scummy than the average Joe. He came to Snacktooth believing that the snacks on the island would be the key to his grand dream, that he could make a profit off of them and be able to finally afford the things that he wants. Because beforehand, he was a door-to-door salesman selling gruel to grandmas. He could not make a living off of that to achieve his dreams, so he's going to try and achieve that any way that he can, whether that be very selfish means or whatnot. Cromdo, again, is another character that I personally feel a lot of sympathy for, as it shows that he grew up in a very harsh environment and he did not have the best life, so that explains why he acts the way that he does. While that does not excuse his actions and his behavior to the other characters, it does give a bit more insight onto why he is the way that he is, why he's so grumpy and bitter all the time. It's because he believes that he cannot afford to be happy because of the life that he's lived.
I do the wiggle, do the wiggle, do the wiggle with me. Yeah!
After after bringing the previously aforementioned characters back to the town, you meet the next pair of characters who very quickly became fan favorites amongst Bugsnax enjoyers, and myself included. The first of the pair being a character by the name of Chandlo Funkbun. On surface level, when you first meet him, he seems like a typical, frat guy, very sporty, very athletic. He's a meathead. But as you talk with him more and learn more about him, he is actually very spiritual and very smart, and he has a lot of wisdom to him. When you meet Chandlo, he speaks very highly of his best friend, Snorpy, the next member of the pair, and how he very much cares for Snorpy as a person. The two of them have been together since they were children, and they pretty much grew up together, have always spent their lives together. So Chandlo takes it upon himself to act as almost a protector to Snorpy, who is a very anxious and reclusive character, very far opposite from Chandlo himself. We learned that Chandlo actually did not want to leave town once everyone broke apart, but he left for the sake of Snorpy, who was having severe social anxiety and panic attacks because of all the infighting. So he took him up to the mountains to help him calm down and relax and live a more peaceful life away from everyone else. There's not much bad to say about Chandlo as a character. Even other characters throughout the game mention how much of a good guy he is, and a part of Beffica's storyline is digging up dirt on the other characters, and when she tries to uncover Chandlo's dirty secrets, she can't find anything. There's nothing bad about him. He is genuinely a good character who cares about the other people around him. Although his boundless care for others does come as a bit of a hindrance to himself, as he believes with his relationship with Snorpy that it is his job to fix him. Snorpy is an introvert with a lot of anxiety who believes that pretty much the whole world is out to get him. He is in desperate need of therapy, but Chandlo takes quite a bit of time and a lot of communication with others to find out that he himself cannot fix Snorpy. That as much as he wants to protect him and take care of him, there are just some things that are out of his control that he cannot fix. And I think that is a very good character development to learn that there are just some things that you cannot fix in this world. There are certain aspects about the people you care about that are out of your control to be able to help and fix. Other than that, Chandlo's the role throughout the story is being not so much the comedic relief, because he is not dumb by any means, as much as other characters like to believe that he's just a meathead who only cares about basketball, lifting, and other more jock-related interests. But he is genuinely a very important character to the story, as he brings a lot of just general information and plot importance to the game with the information that he gives you about the characters who have gone missing, his relationships with them, and just overall he's quite a fantastic guy.
Lift in your crib, dog!
The other half of this pair, Snorpy Fizzlebean, on the other hand, is quite the opposite of Chandlo. While Chandlo is outgoing, helpful, and very involved in the community, Snorpy is extremely reclusive, extremely anxious all the time, and has just generally a lot of trauma that he needs to work through, that Chandlo very desperately wants to help him through, and he does a great job of comforting him throughout the story and just throughout their lives in general. But Snorpy still hides a lot of secrets about why he's so scared all the time from Chandlo, out of fear that he'll either lose him, drive him away, or that he'll get hurt in the process. When you first meet Snorpy, it is very clear that he is the type of guy who is a conspiracy theorist. He believes that there is a secret organization in their society called the Grumpuses, who is working towards, global domination, and he believes that the Bugsnax on the island plays some part into the Grumpuses scheme. We learn later in the game that the reason why Snorpy is so scared of the government, scared of everything, is because he used to work for them. He and his sibling, Floofty, who I'll be talking about in a bit, worked in a government facility designing prosthetics, medical equipment. But Snorpy eventually learned that the company that they were working for were using their products for much more nefarious means, and he tried to expose the company for that and basically whistleblow what they were actually doing, which resulted in him and his sibling being fired from their jobs, and a huge smear campaign started against the both of them, which completely sent Snorpy just spiraling down a rabbit hole. He believes that the world is out to get him, even so much that he fears going outside of their little cabin out of fear that he is being under constant surveillance by the Grump entity, that there's always someone watching him and his every move. And he pretty much keeps this to himself, except for the main character, because he believes that if he tells Chandlo any of this, he's either going to lose him, that Chandlo won't believe him, or that the Grumpunati is going to come for Chandlo next. Snorpy is just a very socially awkward character that most people actually find endearing in his very silly ways. But aside from his anxieties and constant worries, he is actually a very smart character who's very knowledgeable about what is actually going on with the expedition and gives you some very important knowledge about Lisbert's disappearance. The two of them shared, as he called them, their deepest, darkest secrets because they could trust in each other as very intelligent individuals who had their suspicions that something was not quite right with the island that they were on. Overall, Snorpy is a pretty fun character to interact with. His dialogue lines come across as both witty, intelligent, and also a little bit silly at times, and it is very clear from when you first meet him that he has an absolutely horrible crush on Chandlo for as many years as they've been together. And that's another reason why he's so scared to tell Chandler about the truth, is because he's in love with him. He doesn't want to drive him away, he doesn't want to lose him. And their relationship overall is just very cute, as Snorpy, despite this absolutely massive crush on him, does not really know where their relationship stands. He doesn't know if they're friends or if there's something more than that, and even later in the game, he refers to himself and Chandlo as roommates with benefits, which is hilarious in of itself. I really like Snorpy as a character. I think he's very fun.
Ha 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 ha! I'm not telling you the terrible secrets because they are terrible and secret.
The next character that you meet after interacting with Snorpy and Chandlo is actually a relative of them, Floofty Fizzlebean, Snorpy's estranged sibling. You actually meet Floofty for the first time very early in the game before you actually interact with Gramble and Wiggle, but you don't know who they are. When you first meet them, they come across as very abrasive and harsh and very focused on their scientific studies. Floofty is what they call themselves, a gastroentomologist. Basically, they study the effect of Bugsnax after consumption and how they affect the body. When you first meet Floofty, they ask you to feed them a Bugsnax and transform their leg into said snack. But later in the game, after they've run off to their lab, you meet back up with later and realized they've cut off their own leg and have now replaced it with a wooden peg leg. So that gives you a very good insight into how Floofty is as a character right off the bat. They are extremely focused in their studies and put that above anything else, even their relationship with their own brother. Floofty believes that they are pretty much too smart for anyone else to understand them, and they struggle a lot with social interaction with others and being able to understand their more emotional reactions to certain events. Floofty as a character is pretty much the embodiment of all logic, no emotion, as they believe that emotion at times is a weakness, and they do not let it affect them in their work. As I mentioned before with Snorpy, the both of them had an active political smear campaign against them in their careers after Snorpy tried to expose the company that they were working for their more nefarious schemes, and that was pretty much what ruined their sibling relationship with each other. My phone ran out of storage, so that's fun. Anyways, continuing on with Floofty, we see throughout the game that they pretty much pride themselves and their worth in their work, and they truly believe that no one else understands them or what they're trying to achieve with their experiments and scientific research. And that leads to a lot of conflict with several other characters, including their own brother. Floofty and Snorpy, both as siblings, have very different ideologies on how to go about their work, who they work for, and what their goals are. And not really so surprisingly, Floofty as a character doesn't really change all that much throughout the story. They do learn a little bit more about how to listen to other people and respect other people's opinions, but at the end of the day, they are still quite rude, quite antagonistic to other characters, especially another one by the name of Shelda. Floofty and Shelda are parallel opposites to each other, similar to how they are with their brother Snorpy, but more so in a way of ideologies and how they present themselves and how they get their messages across to their followers. Despite their quite rude personality, Floofty is actually quite the fan favorite character, and I think that's because most of the time in media, you don't often see the rude and brash character be so well loved and endeared by their fan base. And surprisingly, Floofty is one of those characters.
Ah! The goggles! They do nothing! Ah!
The next character who is briefly mentioned in the Floofty segment is another character by the name of Shelda. She is a wise old prophet of the hippie type who comes across as this grand, almost prophetess-like character whose entire purpose is to bring wisdom to the expedition team about Mother Nature. As I mentioned briefly in the Gramble segment, he and Shelda are the only characters who don't eat Bugsnax by principle. Although you learn through Shelda's story that she's kinda lying about that. She brings a message to the expedition team that Bugsnax are toxins, that they should be purged and be destroyed as they go against the will of Mother Nature, who is pretty much just like Mother Nature, the will of the world. Although Shelda does sneak Bugsnax in secret because, as she reveals later in her story, that she's a fool, she's a fraud, and she knows that. She knows that no one will listen to her as her regular self, Shelzy Woolbag, so she puts on this facade as Shelda, the wise old sage, to bring her message across to people who will actually listen to her when she puts on that mask as someone who she's not. Unfortunately, because of her behavior and that she's a fraud in of herself, and that she puts on this grand, sometimes comes across as annoying, active speaking and dialect to her messages, has made her one of the most hated characters in the game, which I personally believe she's one of the funniest characters in the game. She speaks in a way so much as that she's almost hosting a sermon to the people who are listening to her. But in private, when she's talking with the main character, she drops that facade in very funny moments that reveal that she's just an old cranky woman who is tired of people not listening to her and just, wants to be respected. And she wants people to listen to her. Most of the characters realize pretty quickly that she is full of it and that she's not really as wise as she thinks she is, except for one. Chandlo really trusts in her and her wisdom, so much so that he goes to her in times of need to seek wisdom from her for his problems that he's dealing with, whether that be dealing with his own self-worth when it comes to his strength, dealing with his relationship with Snorpy. Shelda and Chandlo make a very interesting dynamic with each other. It wasn't until a few years after the game released when they announced a DLC with extra story and focused on certain characters. Shelda finally got the spotlight to shine in the DLC, in which most players got a better feeling for her as a character and really started to like her more as she revealed more about who she is fundamentally at her core, why she believes the things that she does, how throughout her whole life she's just wanted to get her message across and be able to share her knowledge and wisdom with people who are willing to listen to her. I think Shelda is a really great character that gets too much undeserved hate. I enjoy her moments in the game, and while I can agree some of it can get a little bit annoying at times, but all the characters have their annoying moments. That's just what makes them more human.
So it is that Shelda is really grumping hungry.
The last two characters I'm going to be talking about in a pair because, one, they don't get much screen time and a lot of their screen time is seen with each other, and two, because they're a package deal. Elizabeth Megafig and Eggabell Batternugget, the expedition team leader and her partner, the medic. From the very beginning of the game, we get this pretty solid idea of what to expect from Elizabeth as a character. She is a brave, strong, and adept leader who brought everyone to the island as a part of her expedition team to explore and uncover the mysteries surrounding Bugsnax and the isle itself. Eggabell, her girlfriend, tagged along with them because she did not want to be left behind. And we see throughout a various amount of different film recordings that are left behind by the two of them reveal a lot more than meets the eye to their relationship with one another. We see that Eggabell suffers very clearly from depression and self-image issues, as most of her life was spent living in the shadow of others and feeling like she is not good enough to be able to help out others when her entire profession is being a doctor. She believes that that's all she'll ever be good for is what she can provide to others, and she wants to be able to keep up with her partner Elizabeth and her adventurous, grand exploits and just, be able to provide something. We see through the tapes that Eggabell eventually develops an addiction to Bugsnax, kind of similar to what I mentioned in the Wiggle segment, although Eggabell's is far more extreme than any other character that we've seen. This obviously concerns Elizabeth as they don't quite know exactly what Bugsnax are yet, and she is not quite fond of Eggabell's participation in Floofty's snack experiments that are taking a very obvious toll on Eggabell's body, both her physical and her mental health. This, once again, is another great parallel to how addiction affects people personally and the people around them in their relationships. Though the two of them do not make an appearance in the game outside of the tapes until the very last segment of the game, it is very apparent that those two are very connected to each other and that they go hand in hand with one another. When you finally find where Elizabeth went at the end of the game, through the help of Eggabell, who had also been missing for the same amount of time as she had, you learn the truth about Bugsnax as a whole and the island itself. That Bugsnax are parasites who slowly and insidiously take over the hosts that eat them until they form an addiction to them, and they can't stop until their body crumbles away, being fully transformed into snack matter and becomes one with the island. Elizabeth, in the final act of the game, blames herself for bringing everyone to the island, all the harm that has befallen on them, and she believes that she is the only one who should stay behind while everyone else escapes to suffer the consequences of her actions by bringing everyone here. But Eggabell's not having any of that. Eggabell storms in and stays behind with Elizabeth to help fend off the horde of snacks that are incoming while everyone else escapes the island. This act of sacrifice from the both of them shows just how much they care about not only each other, but everyone else who was on the expedition team. As we assume when we see the end of the game that they gave their lives to protect everyone and make sure that everyone escaped safely back to the mainland. Overall, I really enjoy both Elizabeth and Eggabell as characters, but I do wish that they had gotten more screen time throughout the game, as do many other people. It's a little more tricky than the other characters to form a solid opinion on the both of them when they pretty much don't make a physical appearance in the game until like the last quarter of the game, outside of the backstory films that we get on them throughout our adventures. But other than that, they are still pretty likable characters, and once again, I wish we had seen more of them.
Don't joke around. I don't want you taking risks to impress me. But you are impressed, yes?
And that concludes my review of all 13 main characters of the game. There were 2 other characters that make appearances in the game, but they aren't as important as the main 13, so I didn't include them. Sorry, Colombian Alligator. But overall, I think this game is fantastic, the characters are fantastic, and in my silly little opinion, I think it's a near perfect game. The characters and the personalities that they all bring to the table are what make this game so unique and special, not only to me, but to so many of my friends that I have met because of this wonderful game. This story holds a very special place in my heart, and so do each and every individual character that you meet throughout the story. I adore all of them in their own respective ways and for their own respective reasons, and I personally think none of them at their core are bad characters. I think everyone realistically has their pros and flaws, and that's what makes them so human. That's what makes them so realistic of characters, and that's why I enjoy the story so much. If you like this video of me rambling about my favorite game, be sure to subscribe below in case you want to see any more of my silly college assignments that I have to do, or any of the future art stuff that I'll be posting. My social media is in the description below, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye! My opinions of the characters. Don't fucking flame me. I can't. No! This is a college assignment. I can't swear. The door is there. Leave. Fucking leave. You need to leave. He had been looking because, you know, she comes off immediately as rude and antagonistic. That's not the word. Pardon me. There are plenty of different conflict, both whose entire purpose of the expedition is to provide wisdom to the group. Shut the fuck up! This is so fucking stupid! Oh my god!